For the problem that asks you which method you should use in order to solve the quadratic equation, you should pull out your flowchart and check to see which method you should use. So for the first one, I'm going to first check to see if my problem is factorable. So I'll set up my diamond with 48 on top and negative 14 on the bottom. Now I go through the factors of 48 and I realize that negative 6 times negative 8 is positive 48. And when I add these two to each other, I get negative 14. So this problem is factorable. So I will use factoring to solve. Now I'll write the equation in factored form. And I'm not quite done. I need to write my x-intercepts, which are going to be positive 8 and positive 6. Now, if you'd like, you could write a little sign here to tell yourself, flip the signs. Remember that it's going to be the opposite signs. Now I look at b and I see that it's in vertex form. And I know that when a function is in vertex form, I need to use complete the square method. So I'll go ahead and rewrite my equation right here. It's plus 3 squared minus 4 equals 12. Just like the complete the square problem we did earlier, we're going to move the k value first. So that will be the 4 plus 4 to each side. And I'll highlight that pink. I'll rewrite my equation. So now I've canceled out the 4 from this side, and all I have left is x plus 3 squared equals 16, and I'll highlight the 16 pink, since we got it by moving the 4 over. Now, I notice there's no stretch or a value right here on the side, so I'm ready to square root. And the square root helps us get rid of the power of 2. So now I just have plain x plus 3 equals, and square root of 16 is a perfect square, so it'll be plus or minus 4. And I'm going to leave a little space right here for the number to get moved over. So the last thing I need to move over is my 3. So I'll do my opposite sign, negative 3 to this side and negative 3 here. I'll highlight that in yellow. So I'm almost done, but what I need to do in order to write my final answers is branch out. So I'm going to solve here. This equals negative 3 plus 4, x equals negative 3 minus 4. Okay? So negative 3 plus 4 is going to be negative 1, and negative 3 minus 4 is going to be negative 7. If you have trouble with adding positives and negatives, just type that into the calculator and it will tell you the right answer. Or at least check your work to make sure that you got the right answer. So now we're done with part B. And the last one, we check to see if it's factorable. And since the only factors of 5 are 1 times 5, and there's no way that's going to add up to negative 2, I'm going to use the quadratic method here, quadratic formula. Okay, so I'll label my A, B, and C. A is going to be 1 because there's no value in front of x squared. B is going to be negative 2. And C is going to be 5. And I will color code that. So I'll make A pink. And I'll highlight the front. B will be an orange. And notice how I was careful with my signs. This is a negative 2. If you put positive 2, you'll definitely get the wrong answer. And C is this number. Okay, so Now I'll write out my quadratic equation, but since I wrote it in the previous video, I'm just going to write it with parentheses open so that I can just fill in the blanks. So A is going to go right here and next to the 4 here. Highlight that pink. B is going to go in these two positions, so I'll highlight that orange. And 5 is my last number, which goes at the very end. So now I'm ready to begin. I'll rewrite my formula. And with every step, I'm trying to clump up the numbers together a little bit more so that I get one final answer. So here I have a negative and negative, which makes a positive. So now it's just 2 plus or minus the square root. And rather than doing the math step by step, I'm just going to type this string in the calculator, starting with this parenthesis and ending with this parenthesis. So when you do that, you're going to get negative 16 over 2 times 1 is just 2. Now, the square root of a negative number is going to be imaginary, so I will write x equals 2 plus or minus 4i. So I write what the square root of 16 is, but I put an I at the end because it's negative 16 over 2. And I'm kind of running out of space because I'm using this Sharpie. So I circle my whole numbers, and I see that they are all divisible by 2, so now I divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So I'll rewrite that right here. X equals 1 plus or minus 2i. And for your two answers, you'll write x equals 1 plus 2i, x equals 1 minus 2i. And that would be it, because we cannot combine real and imaginary numbers together, so they just stay separate like this with a plus and minus sign between them. That is choosing the best method.